My name is Dr. Brendan Armm. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine. I'm also a licensed acupuncturist. I'm the director and founder of Lotus Integrative Medicine here in Santa Monica, California. I put together this PowerPoint presentation, which I'm very excited to share with you. So I hope everybody can see it. I'm pretty certain we can also, okay, thumbs up, we can see it. Great. Okay, so far it's working well. And are we scrolling to the next one? Let's see, hold on. We scroll to the next one? Okay, great, all right. All right, so what I want to talk about is immune resiliency or immune resilience. And what is immune resilience? Well, it's our ability to keep our immune system strong. Or if our immune system, we get hit with something, our ability to recover quickly. You know, if we get ill, how ill do we get and how quickly do we bounce back? Oops. Okay. Now there are some things that there are different causes of why the immune system gets depleted or weakened. And from a Chinese perspective, which I'm going to weave through this presentation because I'm an ambassador of Chinese medicine, from a Chinese perspective, we talk about when the immune system is weak, we're oftentimes referring to a spleen weakness or the spleen qi energy has gotten weak. So let me just pause there for a second. In Chinese medicine, it's a whole system of medicine where the idea is energy moves through the body, it goes to the organ, and each organ has various physiological effects that are recognized in Western medicine, but there's also other things that the organ has some type of jurisdiction or control over in Chinese medicine, which is a little different than Western medicine. So for example, the spleen in Chinese medicine governs the immune system. It also governs your digestion and also your mental health and also the strength of your muscles. So for those of us, and I'm sure there are many of us, that have that mental overexertion, they always are worrying, they're worrywars, they're very pensive, a lot of brooding, overthinking. That can deplete the energy of the spleen, which can make the immune system get weaker. Also, if you do too much physical overexertion, or you don't eat well, or you don't sleep well, or just aging, or other lifestyle things, which we'll get into, all that can deplete the immune system. On the other side, we want to do different things to help strengthen or create a healthy spleen tree or healthy immune system or healthy immune resiliency. That way we can stay well or we can get back into a state of wellness. So what I want to share is what would a daily lifestyle be to help support your immune system, okay? So that if you're healthy, you stay well healthy, or if you're sick, perhaps in time you can have a stronger immune system and get better. That would be a morning, day, and evening kind of plan. So in the morning, in Chinese medicine, we like to get up nice and early, and it would be 7 days a week, not this weekend warrior where you sleep in or your weekend warrior and you get up early and do lots of exercise, but whatever your pattern, 7 days a week, okay? And in the morning, try to have some mindfulness practice, something to set a good intention for the day. Also that exercise first thing in the morning is the vigorous exercise that pumps the blood, that gets the lymphatics going is the most important time, maybe 30, 60 minutes a day. Again, in that idea of mindset, very important to be positive, that way you can be a good listener. You can try to approach the day with a level of compassion, love and kindness of the things that you're working on. So try to instill first in the morning some activities that would get you into a spirit of loving kindness. Says, it's important to eat a frog first thing in the morning. I don't think he's not referring to literally a frog, but what he means is if, we have a number of things that we need to do throughout the day. Some of them are very challenging. If first thing in the morning you can try to check off one of those most challenging things of the day, it really sets the day for success. You have an early accomplishment. Okay, a big one in Chinese medicine is diet, of course. And there's certain foods that would be very good and healthy for the spleen or healthy for the immune system, and there's foods that aren't so healthy. The ones I just wanted to point out, in Chinese medicine, when you talk about the spleen or stomach, we say the spleen and stomach is governed by the earth element. You know, there's this whole system in Chinese medicine of different elements. So the one that governs our digestion, our immune system, is the earth elements. So foods that are grown close to or in the earth, you know, root vegetables, parsnips, carrots, onions, garlics, beets, radishes, turnips, potatoes, that kind of stuff that's grown in the earth or even close to the earth, like rice or grains. Another big one I want to point out is this idea in Chinese medicine of a clear, bland diet. Clear meaning clear liquids, you know, bland meaning limited flavor. That type of stuff, that's the slow cooked liquids, the stews, that's a lot easier. It's more warming. It tends to be more warming, which the digestion likes, and it's easier to digest, you know, so that the body can transform the food into some type of healthy energy, which will, you know, support our immune system. Foods that have a lot of flavor, spicy, fried, greasy foods, the sugar, stuff like this, it takes a lot more energy to break it down, and therefore there's less energy for your body to have on the surface of the skin to protect yourself or the immune system. Okay. Also in Chinese medicine, recognize that this method of medicine comes from an Asian culture where typically there's a large breakfast, moderate lunch, and a light dinner. To point again some foods that are very good, this idea of the slow cooked foods, I just want to reemphasize that, whether it's a Chinese rice porridge, which is like rice and stewed, like vegetables stewed together, or khichdi, which is like dal and vegetables, you know, like more from an Ayurvedic or Indian perspective, you know, with the vegetables that are slow cooked, or like a, you know, like a miso soup, or, you know, like a mulligatawny soup, or some types of soups that are, again, slow cooked, or even like a bone broth. Stuff that's slow cooked tends to be more healthy. And certainly don't forget your probiotics. That can be very helpful too. There's some other foods noted that are not so good in foods perhaps to avoid. Not just the foods you eat, but trying to get in the spirit of it. And also practicing the joy of cooking, cooking by yourself, cooking with friends that you may be living with right now, or family. And in time, you know, spending more time with other friends and other family and cooking together, you know, that can be a nice activity and very good for your immune system. And if there are certain food recommendations from a Chinese perspective that don't work for you, you know, maybe you have a food allergy, then you might have to get some type of testing to see which ones don't work for you as an individual. And then even though it's in the Chinese medicine would be recommended, it's not so good for you, so you wouldn't eat it. I think food journaling is also a very interesting idea to, you know, to work with a professional on. To come back to Chinese medicine, you know, herbalism is a big component to it. You know, when you're working with a licensed practitioner, you know, they tend to, you know, do a comprehensive job of getting the background, history, customized formula based on you, whatever, you know, your pattern, your pattern disharmony is, you know. So just for educational purposes, there's a formula that's very commonly used in Chinese medicine for the immune system to help support it. It's called Yuping Fengsan, also known in English as jade windscreen powder. This is a good formula for helping regulate function. Also another formula that's used for respiratory system diseases, same formula. But again, remember, your practitioner oftentimes won't necessarily give you just a straight formula like this. They may modify it based on you. Another one of my favorites is Buzong Ichitang, which translates as tonify the middle and augment the qi decoction. This is also a very good formula for as an help with allergies and as an anti-inflammatory. Shifting gears from Chinese herbalism, you know, there's also discussion, obviously, in Chinese medicine for acupuncture and the benefits of that. Now, again, this really depends on your condition. You know, it depends on many factors. But in general, you know, you tend to work with somebody more short-term care when it's an acute issue or something that's not a long-standing issue, and you tend to work with somebody more regularly for chronic issues. So now let's move from daytime into evening. We went from morning to daytime into evening. This is a very important thing to point out that I'm sure we all are working on is how do you manage the work-life balance? You know, when does time end for work, and when does time begin for yourself, and or yourself and your partner, or yourself and your partner, your family, or your family, whatever it may be. you know, and I think that's very important to define. At what point do you kind of close down the office or the work stuff and you start spending time with the more personal stuff? Just practicing that over time can be strengthening to your immune system. Again, in the evening, it's a time to unwind. Very important to get off media a few hours before you go to sleep, at least 2. Otherwise, it's too disturbing. It causes too much anxiety. And whether you want to turn off the brain or not, it's sometimes you'll find yourself with a whole nights of just restless sleep based on just watching the media or something that's too stimulant at nighttime. An evening walk or spending time in nature. And even nowadays, you know, even if it's just opening up the window and looking out the window and looking at the spring flowers, you know, in the sunshine, when it's daytime, evening time, maybe you'll look at the moon or the stars, you know. Even in the evening time conversations with friends or families, you know, to reconnect, to check in. Some movement in the evening is also very good for the immune system, you know, but this type of movement is different than the movement or the exercise in the morning, which is more vigorous. In the evening, this is the time to do like more stretching. If you're going to do certain postures or asanas, they call it in yoga practice, maybe you do fewer postures, and you hold them a longer time. So it's less for the muscle developing, you know, and helping to calm the nervous system. Yin yoga or restorative practices like this, you know, are to that purpose. I also find evening time something of reading or listening to, you know, so for stress management. You know, I'll point out a few of my favorite teachers. The Dalai Lama, for example. This is a teacher I have seen many times and read quite a bit and enjoyed listening to quite a bit. I spent several weeks with him and other people and other monks in Dharamsala, which is in the state of Uttar Pradesh, which is in northwestern India, about 20 years ago. And I remember, and I still think on this often, you know, the level of compassion, how he stresses the energy of loving kindness and compassion, you know, and tolerance. Being around inspiring teachers like this can help that energy in ourselves, and that in itself will calm the mind so that the energy is more available for the immune system. I also point out Thich Nhat Hanh, another one of my favorite teachers, a master, I believe he's in the early 90s, I think 93, a master at mindfulness practices. What does that mean? Whatever you're doing, just be present is his message. Whether you're cleaning a teacup or peeling a tangerine or at a stop sign, you know, smile. You know, he mentions quite a bit about it's so easy for us to get caught in the past and have difficulty letting go, you know, or grieving because of what's happening now isn't like the way it was before, and how much energy that uses up that could otherwise be used for your, you know, immune system. And at the same token, in the future, you know, some of us are so anxious or fearful, you know, of what's going to happen in the future. Again, causing a lot of using up of this vital energy that will no longer be available for immune system. So his practices of mindfulness breathing in the present moment. My last teacher I want to share, Amachi, is another teacher I've been following for about 30 years. She comes to LA, you know, every June. I also spent quite a bit of time with her in India over a month, many years ago. And, you know, she's known as the hugging saint. What is her message? Her message to me is, you know, whatever you're doing with yourself and your life, try to be of service to people. She's pushing this message of selfless service to help others, to feel the embrace of nature and everything that's around us, you know, and instead of being so concerned and worried about ourselves, go be of service to other people, and then they don't have that worry about ourselves, so we don't suffer as much. You know, she says, especially during this time, how important is the suffering of others, just to be there to help support people, just to hold that space. So meditation at the end of the day, a little different than the morning, but can be very similar. I like these two practices. One of them is very simple. You can just inhale and you can think the word let, and exhale, you can think the word go, and you can practice 10, 15 minutes every evening, letting go of thoughts and emotions. Or another practice that I recommend, you can go online and you can find this yourself. You know, if you do a keyword search of spleen meridian or spleen channel, you know, and then click images and then print it out, you'll see how where the spleen channel goes. Again, remember the spleen is the ones chiefly or mainly responsible for the immune system. There are other organs too, the lung and the kidney, stuff like this, but the spleen is a very important one. A lot of the herbs that tonify the immune system in Chinese medicine are herbs that tonify the spleen. So at any rate, if you print out this meditation, the channel of the spleen meridian and see how it goes from the feet up into like the rib cage on both sides of the body, and you focus and you meditate on that, that in itself might help support your spleen energy. Okay, so for adults, very important to get to bed before 11 p.m. Chinese medicine, they'd like you to be asleep before 7 or 9 p.m., but definitely before 11 p.m. In Chinese medicine, every 2 hours, a different organ is illuminated. Okay, some organs you're supposed to be awake for, and some organs you're supposed to be unconscious or asleep for. The gallbladder is the one that starts at 11 and goes to 1 a.m. That is when it's very important to, so that your body can do the important healing that it needs to do for the immune system and others. It's very important that you're unconscious for that. If you're awake during that hour, it can cause a gallbladder disharmony. And that can cause us to have more anxiety and more anxiousness and have a lower immune system. I'm also a big fan of the evening ritual. I love my evening shower. I like my morning shower too. But I think to refresh, to cleanse, wash away the day, the evening shower is crucial. I am a lanky, sinewy, make a lot of cracks and stuff like this. We call that a wood constitution in Chinese medicine. A lot of always thinking of the future and always working hard on things and stuff like that. And that's very much what the Western mindset culture is a very wood predominant culture. So in Chinese medicine, that which nourishes wood is water. So being around water, taking that evening shower, drinking water, listening to a water fountain, things like this, eating foods that come from water, fish or seaweed can all be very helpful. I also think fresh linens and fresh clothing when you're sleeping can be very helpful. And from a lot of my, I've heard from several naturopathic colleagues, sometimes in order to get anchored in sleep, we need a little more protein. So little almonds or walnuts, maybe a handful or two, just to help us, again, in Chinese medicine, they talk about the strength of your liver blood. A little protein can strengthen the liver blood, that can help anchor the shen or help anchor the spirit of the heart so you can get into that sleep state. I really enjoy this one at nighttime. A prayer for peace. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. A very nice mantra. Even Amma talks about, chanting this 100 times every night right now, which takes about 8 minutes, and I'm working on it myself. So in conclusion, immune resiliency. How do we strengthen the immune system? Number one, I'd say a daily mindfulness to practices that help support our immune system, as opposed to things that may weaken our immune system. Number two, trying to look at this from a three-pronged perspective. There is some work we need to do because of our own deep interest. We want to get better, okay? There's also like a second part would be, feeling connected to a sense of community, a sense of support, so working with, a healthcare provider or having a group, you're all working together for good health. And the third thing is some type of inspiration, maybe a teacher or a mentor or some of the three I mentioned, all these, maybe the three treasures of good immune system, those might perhaps be ones to consider. So each of you will receive, a copy of the video of the presentation, and please let us, please feel free to share it with friends, coworkers, families, etc. We are here to help, and may all beings be free from suffering. Blessings and thank you. And just a little more detail about our contact information.